Okay, so to make a pattern in Illustrator, or at least one of the ways to make a pattern in Illustrator that I really like to do for at least toss patterns, or patterns that you don't need perfect symmetry for, with a lot of individual elements, even some overlapping elements, you can use this. You just want to have all your elements, all your individual pieces of art grouped together, so if you move them, you're not messing up your artwork, and you can just hover over it and click Control G or Command G, or you can go up to Object and then Group. Anyway, once you have them all grouped so that you can move each element around, without any trouble, then you just want to take your mouse pointer here with the black tool, the selection tool, select all of them, click Object, and then click go down to Pattern, Make, and then you're going to want to leave it on grid. If it's not on grid, go ahead and put it on grid. And I'm going to set it to 18 by 18. You can set it to a different size if you'd like. Bigger is usually better. But you want them to be a square, so same size. Otherwise, you're not going to get a perfect repeat. And then you can select how many copies you want. Usually 5 is good if you're, if it doesn't give you any trouble with like lag or anything. And then you can see how it's tiling. And basically what you're doing is this side is connecting with this side. So really, you might, if you copied an element like this, you might think, if I'm going to put another copy of it, like as a filler element, I might want it over on this side of my square, which if you were doing it in like Photoshop, or if you're just manually kind of cutting the pattern, you might instinctively want to put it on this side, but in reality you want to put it in the middle. If you have anything repeating, you generally want one in the middle and one on the edge, and that goes for like vertical or horizontal, because when it repeats, it's going to wrap around. So you're not actually putting them far apart if you put them on the edge, you're putting them far apart if you put them one on the edge and one in the middle. Same with the vertical, so you want one like up here and then you'd want one in the middle, but if you go to put it down here, then you see how they're next to each other. And then, you're going to want to probably scale up certain elements and scale down other ones. You want variety in your pattern, just like you would if you were making an individual illustration on a single page. So if you have a big element here, you might want to complement it with a smaller element next to it, and then another, like maybe a medium element into a big element. And then also you generally don't want everything facing the same way. There are like brick patterns, but if you're doing a toss, then usually you want the elements to kind of flow into each other, so the way that you're pointing them, you want them to kind of lead your eye around the whole pattern, so like this whole area, instead of just having your eye get stuck in one place. And the same thing with the colors, so you're probably not going to want to put all your red elements in one area or all of your blue elements in one area. You want to kind of separate them, and if you don't have enough like major elements of each color that you're using, then you can separate them. You can scale them down, you can separate them with smaller filler elements of that color and just repeat them. And your filler elements, you probably want to scale some of them up and some of them down. Anyway, I'm going to go through it and I'm going to speed it up, and then we'll come to the pattern at the end and we'll see how it comes out. Okay, so now if you've finished your pattern, or you think you finished your pattern, what you can do is you can just drag out a square. So we did 18 by 18 inches. So that's what I've made my document size. So you'll just go up to new, 18 by 18. Okay. And we drag out a square the same size. And we're going to choose a nice background color. I'm going to use this kind of sand color since it's sort of a summer themed pattern. And then I'm going to copy and paste another square, and we're going to choose the pattern that we made here. So this is how it turned out. So we can't really see how it repeats yet, but what we can do is we can select the pattern, and if we go over to this scale tool here and you double click it while you have it selected, make sure you uncheck transform objects. And we're going to go to 30% to see how it repeats around 3 times, so it's a third. And so I think that looks pretty nice. We have pretty even spacing all around. The yellow is separated enough. The red kind of leads your eye through the different areas, and the elements are pointing in directions so that your eye can move throughout the whole thing. So I think that turned out pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and change it down to 50% because I think that's a good scale to kind of show it off. So, and now we have our pattern swatch, and you can go ahead and save it out if you want, which is File, Export, Export As. But one important thing to do is we're going to go over to our swatches where our pattern is. And then you can save your background colors the same way, but since it's saved as a swatch, go to Save Swatch Library as AI, and you can just click Save. And then anytime you want to use your pattern, you just go to Open Swatch Library, User Defined, and there it is, Summer Pattern. So if you don't save it that way and don't know how to open it, then you're going to lose your swatch. So anyway, that's how to make the pattern and how to save it, how to export it. And then I can make a separate video on how to do mock-ups, which you'll have to get the pattern over to Photoshop if you're doing an Illustrator this way. And that's all for this video, and hopefully it was helpful. I think this is one of the easiest ways to do this type of pattern. If you're doing something with a lot of geometry, then you probably want to do it manually and cut it up so that you can place everything really evenly with measurements and instead of kind of manually placing them. But for tosses, this is a great method, and it's a really intuitive method. It just takes a lot of tweaking, especially if you have a lot of elements like I did.